watching KARE 11 News in high definition.
A drive to right field, deep to the corner. Goal! A grand slam for Jason Kumar.
A stunning win in the Bronx for the Twins. Plus,
in terms of containing the flow, this was a positive step forward.
a long-awaited bit of good news from the Gulf of Mexico. But first, a race against the clock. State Capitol.
This is KARE 11 News Weekends.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. There is word tonight that Governor Tim Pawlenty and state lawmakers are closing in on a deal to balance a $3 billion budget deficit.
If they don't reach an agreement by midnight tonight, it could trigger a special session. We get the latest tonight from KARE 11's Joe Fryer, who's at the state capitol. What's the latest, Joe?
Well, Eric and Rena, no deal reached yet, but within the last half hour, Senate Majority Leader Larry Poggemiller emerged from the governor's office to tell us that he thought a deal was, quote, very doable. Now, members of the House and Senate are still at the Capitol tonight. Those who are retiring have been giving their goodbye speeches throughout the evening. Meantime, legislative leaders have been meeting with the governor, trying to reach a deal before the midnight deadline. With the midnight deadline quickly approaching,
hopefully now we'll just come together.
Legislative leaders blazed a trail in and out of the governor's office.
We're going to keep working here.
In a day filled with closed-door meetings, offers and counteroffers.
We're trying a different approach.
Within an hour of their first meeting, Governor Pawlenty emerged with his offer. If Democrats dropped their plan to expand Medicaid health coverage for low-income Minnesotans using federal dollars, then Republicans would not make $114 million in health and human services cuts.
We're at a point where we have to move this forward one way or the other. I think we're at an impasse on those other issues that were hanging us up.
Democrats countered with a plan that would at least give Pawlenty's successor the option of expanding Medicaid.
We think that's still important. It's 22,000 jobs. It's 102,000 Minnesotans that are affected by that early opt-in.
With time quickly ticking away, disagreements over health care remain the final obstacle.
There are lots of areas where we see eye to eye. There are a couple still where we don't. But certainly it's within range, I think.
Another major sticking point, the governor would like to use about $400 million in anticipated federal matching funds to help balance the budget. Then if that money doesn't come through later, he would call a special session just to deal with health and human services issues. Democrats don't like that idea. They would like to balance the budget without relying on that anticipated money, so there would be no special session this summer. Again, though, to avoid any special session, lawmakers need to reach a deal and pass it within the next 2 hours. Eric and Rena.
All right, thank you, Joe, for keeping us updated.
Senator Mie Moi is not seeking a fourth term. In a statement released today, the Democrat from St. Paul's said she wants the next decade to be about her family and her children's future. Senator Moi was elected in 2002 and was the first Hmong American to serve in the state legislature.
There's good news on the efforts to stop that oil leak in the Gulf of Mexico. BP has hooked up a mile-long tube to the leaking well, and oil is being siphoned to a tanker ship. KARE 11's Scott Soroka has more.
For almost a month, it has been pouring out. 200,000 some gallons a day, each gallon a reminder oil and water just don't mix. But finally, some good news from the Gulf of Mexico.
In terms of containing the flow, this was a positive step forward.
Crews got a tube into the leaking well overnight.
We do have oil and gas coming to the ship now.
What could go so massively wrong so quickly?
U of M geology professor Justin Revenaugh says capping the leak is big, but it's just the beginning.
Well, the first thing that went through my mind is when I saw how deep the well was. The first thing was, this is going to be with us for a long time.
Some of the almost 5 million gallons of oil sat on the surface in the form of a massive slick that could cover our twin cities and extend up to Duluth and down to Rochester.
It degrades eventually in the environment, but it degrades very slowly. And so that's going to be a problem that's there for quite a while.
The coastal zones on the Earth are some of the most precious territory we have on the planet. That environment is potentially harmed by even small doses of oil.
Officials say in the next few days they'll contain, quote, most of the oil spilling from the ocean floor.
We do our top kill procedure in a week to 10 days. that will ultimately shut off the flow and kill the well at that time.
As a scholar, Professor Revenant hopes deep well drillers learn from this unprecedented lesson.
The question is what could you have foretold and been better prepared to deal with?
Scott Soroka, KARE 11 News.
Researchers tracking the spill say some oil may have entered a major current flowing toward the Florida Keys. A research vessel is on its way to that area to check the progress.
A 23-year-old man accused of assaulting police officers has been charged. Police say Roland Ballard refused to leave after officers broke up a fight in downtown Minneapolis early Friday morning. According to the criminal complaint, Ballard punched an officer in the jaw after the officer pushed Ballard for getting too close. Officers eventually had to tase Ballard. While they were putting him back in the squad car, Ballard kicked an officer